Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining today. 皆様こんにちは。本日はお忙しい中お集まりくださいましてありがとうございます。本日のウェビナーは主に英語で行われますが、質問等ございましたらぜひ、日本語でチャットに入れるか、最後の Q&A の時間でも日本語で質問してください。このセミナーでは、Differentiated Instruction の3つの利点について説明し、学校の現場、ビジネスの実践的な活用方法について紹介いたします。それでこれに役立つデジタルツール、Gamerizeのアプリと子ども向け英語測定テストの English Benchmark Young Learners も紹介させていただきます。またご希望の方にはこちらの English Benchmark Young Learners 略して EBYL と、Gamerize の、無料トライアルをお送りしますので、チャットの方に弊社スタッフがリンクを入れますので、そちらのリンクよりリクエストをお願いします。また、リンク内に、ウェビナーの簡単なアンケートも、ございますので、そちらも合わせて、ご記入ください。それでは改めてですが、ピアソンの、田口佳代と申します。よろしくお願いします。Hi everyone, my name is Kayo. I'm from Pearson, and I'm the ELL Portfolio Manager for Asia. 本日は何卒よろしくお願いいたします。And I have with me the founder of the Gamerize Dictionary and school owner, Adam Kardos. Adam, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming. I'm really excited to show you what we've been working on, our collaboration, and talk to you about differentiated learning. Some of you know me, but I've been a teacher, trainer, and school owner in Japan for over 15 years. And also we've our company AAS Press produces the Gamerize Dictionary as well as some comic graded readers and textbooks for young learners. So, yeah, よろしくお願いします。
Thank you, Adam. それでは開始前に、弊社取締代表、すみません、代表取締役の寺西から簡単なご挨拶をさせていただきます。寺西さん、お願いします。
じゃあページをお願いします。本日はお忙しい土日に入る前の金曜日の午後というところで貴重なお時間にご参加いただきましてありがとうございます。少し弊社の方のご紹介と、あと今日の目指しているところをお話しできればと思います。で、ピアソンのことは皆さんご存知かもしれませんけれども、創業自体は1844年ということで、もう200年近く前から会社としては存在しておりまして、約100年前ぐらいから子どもから大人まで生涯にわたって、教育を通してそれぞれ皆様のそのポテンシャルを最大化させるというところを企業文化として進めてきております。世界にも2億人弱のユーザーの方が日々学びを弊社のサービスを使っていただいております。次のページお願いします。で、日本の方ではその中で特に英語学習というところをご支援させていただいております。で、上のところが教育機関向けということで、主に子どもから中高の学生様、大学、一般社会人様というところで、英語の教科書と、今日ご紹介させていただいております、英語のアセスメントというところのサービスをご提供させていただいております。で、下の部分は、弊社のそのコアコンピタンスのその英語の学習というところを日本の企業様のグローバル人材育成に使っていただけないかというところで、各種のサービスを提供しております。次のページお願いいたします。で、この中に今日のスーパーキッズというトピックも入っておりますが、各種の教科書を提供させていただいておりまして、特にずっと英語の教科書を開発してきておりまして、世界最大規模の教育ベンダーとなっているんですけれども、そのコアの部分は、セファール基準の部分に関して、弊社の方で10から90の尺度をつけまして、例えば A2B1 という幅広いキャンドルリストの中でも、具体的に英語がどれくらい伸びたかと、また課題は何かというところを明確にアセスメントしまして、で、それに合った教材を提供するというところを中心に、すべてのサービスを展開しております。次のページお願いします。 はい。で、こちらの最後のページになるんですけども、今回の趣旨なんですけども、今までお話ししてきましたように、弊社としては英語のコンテンツというところをいろんな多種多様にものを持っております。またアセスメントを持っております。そういった中で時代が変わって、これからデジタル中心の中になっていく中に、それをお客様が学びやすい形でそのコンテンツを使っていただくというところのパートナーシップの応用事例としまして、今回 AS のアダム様のコンテンツとパートナーシップを組みまして、このゲームライズディクショナリーの中にスーパーキッズのコンテンツを載せることで、より日本の子どもの方から学習を進めていただくのに有効じゃないかと。で、その結果を4技能のアセスメント、イングリッシュベンチマークヤングラーナーというもので測っていただくことで、課題とまた学んだことが明確になるんじゃないかということで、一気通貫のソリューションとしてご利用いただければと思います。最後になりますが、今日この後英語中心に行われますけれども、質問は日本語でも大丈夫ですし、わからないところは日本語でも大丈夫ですので、ぜひ楽しんで何か一つでも持ち帰って参考になる部分が持ち帰っていただければと思います。よろしくお願いいたします。ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。So we're very excited about the partnership between Pearson and Gamerize, as Yutaka has just mentioned. So let's dive in. So today's topic is differentiated instruction and how you can use digital tools to help implement the differentiated instruction to help grow your business. So Adam, let's start off by explaining what is differentiated instruction.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to mention that we're going to have another webinar on the 21st where we're going to go into more detail about how to implement differentiated instruction. So today is going to be more on sort of the benefits for schools. So yeah, if you want to know more about it, come and join us on Sunday at 10:30 as well. But just really quick to kind of kick it off and let you know what we mean by differentiated instruction. So it's probably best understood when compared to what is not differentiated instruction, which I would call the standard model. So if this picture is very old, so obviously this makes it seem like it's something that's really outdated. But what I'd call the standard model is something that is still very much used today. And this is where we see the class not as a lot of individuals, but as one kind of group with the same needs and the same characteristics. And of course, in some cases, the teacher is teaching that whole class as one unit. But recently, obviously, student-centered learning has become more popular. So even in cases where students are working together in groups and we're not just receiving content from the teacher, this still is not necessarily differentiated learning. So what we mean by differentiated learning, more specifically, is a focus on individual learners' needs. Not only focusing on their needs, but actually providing to them different types of content, whether that's content that's pitched at a different level, slightly easier, slightly harder, maybe focusing on different skills. It can also be differentiation of process. So delivering the content or giving activities to the learners that suit them more. So we might have some learners in a class using video and others working in groups, some working alone, depending on what suits their character and their needs the most. And finally, one that's not talked about as much is differentiation of assessment. So this can mean giving learners opportunities to show their progress in their learning in different ways. And it can also be sort of informal assessment that allows students to kind of show progress related to their own level rather than some sort of necessarily a set criteria. So that's a sort of general overview of differentiated instruction.
Thanks, Adam. And then in this presentation, we really want to focus on the benefits to you, teachers and your schools and business. So we're going to look at these three benefits that we've highlighted. So the first one is having a premium offer with meaningful benefits, which we will talk about first. And then the second one is reliable, reproducible quality. I couldn't figure out the best Japanese translation for that, but hopefully the explanation will help give you some more information about it. But this is ensuring that all your teachers and schools can provide the highest quality teaching. And then lastly, we'll look at that motivation aspect about matching learner needs and showing progress, which will lead to better motivation, which will also lead to better retention. So let's start with that premium offer. So Adam, what do we mean about creating this premium offer and why do we need it?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of approach this one from further back. And I just want to start off with thinking about some of the challenges that our industry is facing now. So as a lot of you probably already know, or probably all of you know, the birth rates in Japan have fallen significantly, and every year the number of children is decreasing. So obviously this means that our total addressable market is shrinking gradually with no signs of improving, right? Now, in addition to that also, particularly in the last year or two, we've seen overall prices starting to go up. And this puts a bit of pressure on family budgets, and everyone's kind of feeling the pinch a little bit in that respect. At the same time, unfortunately, one thing that I've noticed isn't really, one price that's not really increasing is the price of English lessons, I think. You know, there are obviously some places where they are raising prices little by little, but we've seen with, you know, the move to online learning and more available options, possibly sometimes not even from within Japan, there's kind of a little bit of a competition over pricing that's happening, and this is kind of keeping the lesson fees down. And so one kind of question, I mean, please put your ideas in the chat if you like, but how can we compete in these, how can we stay viable, how can we compete in these circumstances? So just to answer my own question really real quick, I think one thing that is a mistake is for us to compete over pricing. I think when the whole industry begins to kind of go down that race to the bottom and compete over price and just advertise based on being cheap, we all kind of lose out, as the evaluation of what English education is will gradually kind of fall with that process. But there is some good news, I think. So according to some of the research I've done, families, although they're feeling that their budget is a bit pinched, one of the areas where they're not willing to cut down and really not wanting to reduce their spending is on their children's education and also on their children's experiences. Parents really want their kids to get the best education, and they want them to have you know, abundant experiences that will you know, enrich their lives in the future. So rather than competing on price, I think it's really important in our industry to be providing the best quality and a premium offer, something that really kind of sets us apart in terms of what we're offering to our students and, you know, the parents and their children. So yeah, so that's where I think differentiated instruction is a really kind of an idea that can work really well in this circumstance. Should I just keep on going on with that, Kayo?
Sure, yeah. If you could maybe talk a little bit about digital resources also and how digital resources could fit into that premium offering and what you think about the future of digital resources and whether they're going to be essential in the classroom, especially the young learner classroom. I know some people are a bit hesitant of putting too much digital with young learners and what parents think about it.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, I think so. Starting at the point of differentiated learning, in differentiated learning, we're giving one thing that's really important is assessment and feedback. We need, first of all, if it's based around students' needs, then we really need to have a clear picture of what those needs are. So when we are doing differentiated learning, this also gives us a great opportunity give really detailed feedback to parents and give them lots of opportunities to kind of show the progress of their students and how their children, are doing. And also, yeah, we're able to give them, not only just show them what their needs are and what sort of areas they need to work on, but we're also in differentiated learning very specifically giving them content or addressing those needs. And I think that's one of the things that can sort of make the offering appear to be, obviously if you're going to a class and it's a one size fits all and the teacher just teaches it, it's not as, it's not as valuable as something that is specifically, showing that the school specifically understands your child, understands their needs, and is, doing something for that, really specifically, addressing their needs. So going on to the bridge, I think here to digital resources is that I think in my observations and talking with different schools and trying to implement it at our own school as well, differentiated learning is not that common, done well. I'm not seeing a lot of schools that are successfully able to do it. Excuse me just a moment. And I think the main reasons are, first of all, it requires a lot of skill. We need to have some kind of way to observe and understand the learner's needs. And second, it just takes a lot of time and resources. If we have a class of 10 students and we're trying to create, essentially an individual lesson for each student, it's just not efficient. It's easy enough to spend 4 or 5 hours planning a 1 hour lesson. And that just, it doesn't work in our industry. So this is where I think, the digital tools can come in. And I think it has become a lot easier to provide differentiated learning or learning that education that is specifically tailored to students' needs. And I'll use the examples of the EBYL test, as well as the Gamerize dictionary, as those are the ones that we're the most familiar with and that we're going to showcase today. But obviously something like the English benchmark young learner test, in a very short amount of time, the AI functionality in it can give very detailed results and a detailed report of the student's current state and where their needs are. And that will give also a good opportunity for counseling to show the parents and actually engage them on that level. Excuse me, one moment. I'm just getting over a sore throat, sorry. And then, the Gamerize dictionary, very quickly, I've timed myself in about 60 to 90 seconds. You can create a custom assignment very specifically suited to a child's needs. So it doesn't require, master level graphic designing or, really great abilities to make lots of different worksheets at the same time. Simply picking the right content and setting the right learning aims for the learners can be done really quickly, and the students will get something very specifically targeted to their needs. Sorry, does that cover your questions there, Kayo?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So you talked about the importance of seeing progress and then surfacing those needs of individual learners through differentiated instruction. So I'm just going to share my slide again. So Yutaka showed a version of this already at the beginning, so it's a little bit of a review for everyone. But it's one of the reasons, as Yutaka highlighted, that we created the global scale of English at Pearson. So you see that on the right side. But this is a typical kind of learning cycle where we do the planning and then we do the execution using Super Kids and Gamerize, and then we use the assessment, as Yutaka mentioned earlier, as well. So just kind of focusing a little bit on the global scale of English. So this is made up of learning objectives. And these learning objectives describe what a learner can do at different levels of proficiency on that scale. And these learning objectives were created to enable teachers to establish clear learning goals for their students, and also enables parents, which I know are very important to keep happy for all of you, to understand more clearly what their children are learning, and also to ensure learners are also aware of the small increases that are being made in proficiency, because we know, and Adam's going to talk about this towards the end as well, that young learners, especially young learners, are much more motivated when they can actually see the progress that's being made. So after a period of learning, and we go to the assessment part of the cycle, this is where teachers can assess learners to demonstrate that progress, but also to give that targeted feedback. So going to the differentiated instruction that Adam mentioned, making sure that feedback that you provide to your learners is personalized to every learner as much as possible. And this is formative assessment. And Pearson's EBYL does provide that kind of detailed and personalized feedback for you. Here, I've just kind of highlighted some of the use cases for EBYL. It's a fun, stress-free test. I'm not going to have time to actually show you what it looks like. You can actually join our session on Sunday, where there's a video that Adam will show, where it gives you kind of how the students are actually using it. But it's a very fun, even though it's called a test, it's a very fun test. It's geared for learners age 6 to 13. It's very interactive. But there are different ways you can use EBYL. So first is kind of as that diagnostic formative tool. You can use it at the beginning of the learning cycle to kind of see what proficiency level your students are at the beginning, so that you can identify learning needs at the beginning of that learning cycle, and that will inform your teaching program. You can also use it as a progress monitor. So this will enable you to monitor student progress better throughout the year, and it will provide really good data to guide your teaching and learning, and we'll see a little bit more about that later. Also, you can use it as a readiness indicator for exams like ACAN, so you can see what your level your students are at and see if they're ready to take something like ACAN. And finally, it's a way to engage learners and parents. And we'll take a look at the score reports again later, but it's a great way to celebrate achievement and involve parents in their child's success. So Adam, what's maybe another digital tool or another advantage of using digital tools for differentiated instruction? We want to move on to maybe talking about how it can help a school kind of standardize their teaching, making sure that they all have more of a consistent quality of teaching across all of their teachers, across all of their schools.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to just touch on one of the things that you were saying before as well. Kayo mentioned that it's fun. I'm actually quite surprised. You'll see a little bit of this on Sunday if you come or if you check out the video. But we did use the English Benchmark Young Learners for a group of 10 students. And we had several of the students say that they wanted to do it again, which is a first for me when it comes to a test. So it really is something that's enjoyable. It's kind of, it's not a game per se, but there's a bit of a game element to it. Yeah, sorry. So, right, so the question is here, yeah, the importance of differentiated instruction. And yeah, point number 2 here, reliable, reproducible quality. So, right, I think, again, in the business of education, and knowing mainly English education in Japan, I think the 3 kind of core components that make up quality in our offerings are the teacher's ability, the curriculum, and finally the counseling and support and all that kind of thing. And I think all 3 of them are really important. A teacher's ability is a big one though, right? And this is something having trained teachers for 15 years, I believe in really strongly. One of the most important things at our school is hiring the right teachers, professional development, making sure they get the right training and the right support. And in most cases, I'm happy to say, I think most teachers, especially in their second or third year, just become incredibly valuable members of our team. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. And I'm sure if there's anyone out there as well who's a school owner or trainer, you're familiar with cases like this. But so for example, this might have been several years ago, I don't remember exactly when, we hired one teacher at our schools, and he was, on paper, he looked great. He had great qualifications, good experience with kids, good reference letters. He got through the training. He also did really well, always had the right answers to questions. He interacted well with kids. But then it wasn't only until about 3 months after training where we started to get some complaints from parents and actually staff members as well. So I went in to sort of check up on his lessons to see what was going on. And I just remember walking into one of his classrooms, and the kids were screaming, running around, and they were playing a very rough game of dodgeball. And I thought, well, this isn't really an English lesson, is it? Fun, of course, is important, but it has to be within a certain sort of range, right, where it is still a learning environment. So afterwards, I asked him, sorry, what was that? What was going on there? And he said, well, the kids got bored. They needed to have some fun or whatever. So I don't know what happened exactly, but at some point he kind of lost the plot. And yeah, it's not an entirely uncommon story. So sometimes this does happen. Yeah, so that aside, obviously, we don't want teachers that are going nuts and just throwing balls around the room. But it is a sort of one of the difficulties of our industry to get teachers who can provide high-level, consistently good lessons that are engaging for students and also at the same time get results. So yeah, I think definitely digital tools are a big help in this area. And I'll talk again about EBYL and Gamerize. One thing that's really great about something like EBYL is it gives, again, very specific data. I've already mentioned this before, so I won't go through that again, but it allows you not to have to rely on a teacher's observations. So a newer teacher, typically at our schools, what we've had a lot in the past is we'll ask them, okay, so how is Kentaro doing in class? His parents asked about him. We want to, tell them something. And, a comment sometimes would be something like, yeah, good, he's doing good, which is completely useless, very vague, and it doesn't really tell the parents anything. Or on the other hand, it could be, yeah, Kentaro never sits down. He's too rowdy or something like that, something a bit more critical. Again, both of these are very unhelpful comments. Obviously, just going to the parents and saying, well, the teacher says Kentaro doesn't sit down is not going to do much for his motivation, and it's probably not going to fix the issue either. So yeah, it allows us not to have to rely on perhaps a less experienced teacher's observations in class of how the student is performing. We have data, we can show it to the parents, we can have a conversation about it and develop a plan. And yeah, that's appreciated. It really kind of supports the teacher's role in that sense. And then, yeah, with Gamerize, this is, again, I'm not going to have enough time to kind of give a walkthrough or show you how it works in this one. I'll be happy to, anyone who emails me afterwards, I'll be happy to arrange a call for that. But one of some of the use cases for Gamerize would be to use it as homework. It can be used in class, or it can be used as a flipped learning solution before a class. Now, one of the things that I've noticed about using it in class, typically if we're doing some kind of, for example, drilling or language input work in class with a larger group of students, a teacher is not typically going to be able to focus on each individual learner's pronunciation very well. they might have a big group and they'll have the students repeating. Some of them are saying it, clearly and properly, probably the students that already can. And then the weaker students are kind of mumbling along and not really, getting specific feedback. So with Gamerize Dictionary within the class, we can assign the appropriate level of content to different students in the same class. And the students are getting feedback directly on their own pronunciation, their own spelling, immediately when it really counts. For young learners, often delayed feedback is not at all effective. So a teacher might, finish a game and then tell all the students, oh yeah, that was great, not useful. But in Gamerize Dictionary, if they're getting, oh, you've pronounced this word incorrectly, you need to work on that, and then they repeat it, it's much faster, much more efficient, it gets results. And again, it takes a lot of pressure off the teacher, especially in a larger or mixed ability class. It takes a bit of the pressure off of the teacher to be able to do that. Yeah, that's what I think was the main point there.
Thanks, Adam. And I wanted to kind of expand a little bit on the point about reliability and consistency as well, because it's one of the reasons why Pearson has included AI technology in its assessments. So just want to quickly talk about that in terms of why we have it in our assessments, including EBYL. So the AI system is reliable, it's consistent, and it's free from bias. And it helps analyze all of the English skills that we have. So it also means that teachers can be really confident in the results and that they also don't have to spend their valuable time marking tests. So we went back to the whole idea of it takes a lot of time to do the assessments. It takes a lot of time to do differentiated instruction, but we hope that things like AI will help you and will help save you time as well. So just wanted to also say that the AI technology that we use is the same technology that we use for our most high stakes assessments, like PT Academic, which some of you may have heard of, which we use for migration purposes and visa applications and things like that. So it's very robust and very high tech, but we use it also for this young learners assessment as well. And then I also wanted to show you a video that kind of talks about how this AI technology, how the consistency and how it's free from bias actually helps teachers. So we have a case study video, it's very short, from a school in China that's been using EBYL, so I want to share that.
My name is Ping. I'm working for American Baby.
Let me know if you can't hear the audio.
We have more than 200 schools across China. I think the biggest challenge is the teacher. Like if we can get qualified teacher to test the students, so sometimes the quality, they are not that qualified to test the students. They don't know the theory behind the test. So we really need some kind of auto testing systems, for example, the benchmark test, especially when it comes to the writing or the speaking section. They can't assess a student's ability quite objectively. So I would prefer to just assess by the computer. I think the Pearson English Benchmark is a very good product. It's based on GSE, which is very accurate. It's easy to operate for students. And initially, when we started the pilot test, we set up 2 teachers in the classrooms, one local and one foreign teacher, just in case the students don't know how to operate the tablets. It turned out the local teacher just explained once and students know how to do it. And they were just told to sit in the classroom and they see a bunch of iPads to play with. They were very happy. Because parents want to know what the kids has achieved and what will they achieve in the future. So at the beginning of the year, we have the placement to start with, and at the end of the year, they can use the benchmark test to see the learning outcome. So we can let the students and also the parents knows what they achieved during that learning period. The parents and the students are very happy with the result, which is really a big improvement in terms of the assessment.
So yes, I really like that video and how the teacher talks about how EBYL helped them with some of the challenges that teachers faced in the classroom. And then at the end where he talks about how parents really appreciated it as well, because they could see the progress their children are making. So maybe moving on to the third point, Adam, and maybe the most important reasons behind differentiated instruction is that it increases motivation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So, I mean, I think one of the most important, actually, sorry, not I think, according to research, the most important factor in the success at learning a language is, in fact, motivation. Very simply, being motivated to get better essentially guarantees that a student will progress and improve. And it's something that is one of our core values at AAS Press. All of the products that we design are specifically designed to implement motivation theory and ensure that they're the most motivating resources possible. But sorry, that aside, so why is motivation important for students and of course for our business as well? This is one of those wonderful situations where it really kind of, they go hand in hand. So one of the key parts of motivation, one of the key factors that builds a person's motivation, not just a child and adult as well, is their sense of competence. And competence is very much affected by obviously our experiences of success, but really key to that is what they call an optimal level of challenge. So having tasks or activities that are not too hard and of course not too easy as well. I think for a lot of you out there who have taught children before, you've experienced how frustrated and how quickly a child may give up if something is not just slightly above their level, but way too hard. Children will often, again, get very frustrated. They'll have their sense of confidence eroded and they feel like they want to give up quite quickly. And I think often when we do have a one-size-fits-all class, there's no such thing as a class that's not mixed ability. Essentially, every class that you have, you're going to have some, even if they've passed the same tests or whatever to get into it, some will have a higher aptitude for certain things, certain skills than others, and some will be, have more knowledge than others. It's kind of a fact that we have to deal with in the industry. But yeah, so if you have a one-size-fits-all kind of class, you're invariably going to have some students that are finding it too hard and are going to get into that negative cycle of frustration. And my experience of that, what I'll often see with my own kids and also some children at our schools in the past, if they're finding it too hard, often they'll go home and then typically the parents will say, so how was class? How was English? And there's a few different types of children. Some will go like, futsu. And some of them will say like, zenzen wakaranai, and they'll express the stress that they're feeling there. And parents' reactions to that can often be quite negative as well. Like sometimes it's quite kind and supportive, and other times it can be like, nande dekinai no? Why aren't you able to do it? You got to work harder on your homework or something like that. And in either way, it's just creating this cycle where it's eroding the child's sense of competence. And ultimately, it might lead them to quit the school or give up on English, which for me is really the ultimate thing I'm trying to avoid. If anything, I want children to love English, love learning. If they leave the school and they just give up and they think they're not good at it and they develop a negative self-image, it's a real tragedy in my mind. So on the other hand, with differentiated learning, because it's focused on students' needs, we're aware of what they're finding difficult, and we're able, again, to choose content and assign it to them that is specifically right in that zone, that not too easy, not too hard kind of zone. And when we're able to do that, children do have that sense of success, the feeling of, oh, I can do it. I was able to do it. Often in our classes, when we assign content before the class, we'll have students coming to class who were previously very quiet, and they're just putting up their hand, they're talking confidently, and you can really get a sense of how important that, optimal level of challenge is to building their confidence. Kayo, how about with the EBYL? How does that relate to a child's sense of confidence and motivation?
Thanks. Yeah, so it's really related to that optimal level of challenge that you're talking about, Adam. So that's the reason why we have these score reports for EBYL. So I'll just show everyone an example of what these score reports look like. So here we have a few examples from EBYL. And we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but EBYL provides a lot of really rich data. And so you can really tell where your students are at. And so you can provide that optimal level of challenge that Adam mentioned. So here you see there's detailed information on each student's performance for each skill. And the bigger one is one session. And then you can also see their performance over time as well, which is on the bottom right. So as we mentioned, you can use EBYL as a progress test at regular intervals. So you can see really how they're doing. It also, these score reports will help you simplify lesson planning and being able to give that optimal level of challenge by providing recommendations for each student. And you can see a little bit, sorry, I covered it up, but the written text in Japanese gives those recommendations for each student. And it also means that you don't have to spend time coming up with a differentiated instruction plan on your own for each and every student, because that does take quite a lot of time. Also, if you happen to use Pearson courseware, it will also give you recommendations for lessons within SuperKids, for example, or any Pearson courseware to help you give those recommendations from an actual book or course, if possible. So the assessment technology that we hope will simplify your lessons and kind of take the complex nature out of lesson planning and help you with your lessons and helping build your business better. It would be great, Adam, if we could hear a little bit about your feedback about how perhaps you used these results, these score reports in your classroom as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we used it before. So we did a kind of a demonstration class, which we've videoed and we will show on Sunday. But prior to the class, we gave a group of 10 students the EBYL test. And we purposely chose students that had very different skill levels and abilities. They're between ages 6 and 10. And some of them were quite high, pushing up into almost the A2 range. And some of them were very nearly beginners. Some of the results actually surprised us, though, although I had kind of thought, okay, they'll probably end up in these groups. One of the groups that really surprised me was we had a group of older girls, and they were just fantastic with spelling. They could write everything really well, and this was evidenced in the EBYL test. And though their overall level was quite high, I was quite surprised that they didn't do so well in the speaking. I don't know if it's shyness or what exactly it is. They needed a bit more kind of work to kind of build up their confidence in that. So in the class, we ended up with a group with 2 of the higher level older girls and also a younger girl who fit into the same group. So it was an unexpected grouping. And it really affected the overall plan for the lesson. So really useful.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think you also mentioned a story about the transformative power that it can have as well, about I think it was a young boy.
Yes, I've actually had someone share a really great testimonial video about that. If I can share that, it's a couple minutes long. Let me give that a shot here. So this is something that I've experienced a bunch of times before, but it is really you really see how it affects motivation and how that kind of overall can raise a learner's satisfaction and level as well. Here we are.
So we had a 4th grade boy who was your typical boy. He was, lots of energy, loved running around, loud, very loud. And when we had reading time, phonics time, he would turn into a different kid, unconfident, didn't want to do it, unmotivated, and because he just wasn't getting it. He wasn't doing the homework. At some point, we just went past his level, and he just kind of became a lost cause. And in February of last year, this past February, his mother came and told us that he didn't want to continue. So we expected that and said okay, and till the end of March, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And so that's what we planned for. And at the beginning of March, we implemented Gamerize. We put that in. We did a trial lesson. Kids liked it. It's a game. Kids liked it. But this kid especially, he just took to it. His personality, he played games at home as it was. So it wasn't a big stretch. It wasn't a big jump for him. He got right into it. And in the first week, I think he did maybe 10, 15 hours and just kept with it. I think, this is that case where you tell them, like, your homework is to play a game, and they just can't comprehend, but they'll play it. They're happy to play a game. So we did that, and a couple weeks later, in the middle of March, his mother came, and he came, and not with their head between with their tail between their legs or the head down, nothing like that, but they kind of shyly came back and, hey, can we join again? He doesn't want to quit. All because of the game. All because of Gamerize. He was into it. And now, a couple months later, he's not our top student. I'm not going to say that. But you can see his confidence has changed. He's much more into it. He is challenging himself to read in lesson. He doesn't shy away. It's been great. I love seeing that progress in him, that change in him, that spark is there again. All thanks to Gamerize.
There we go. Yeah. So, what I really like about that story is just that, the words, the spark was back. And that's really what it is when students are getting that, again, their confidence back and that level of that level of confidence in their abilities, knowing that they can do it, right?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, I really like that story. So we're coming to the end of the session. So if you do have any questions or comments, or if anyone wants to share a story about using differentiated instruction, or if you're already using Gamerize, it'd be great to hear your feedback on that as well. But hopefully you've gotten a better idea of what we feel are the benefits of differentiated instruction, or as Adam said, the research tells you that these things are the benefits of differentiated instruction. So providing that premium offer, having reliable, reproducible quality, and then that motivation aspect that we looked at the very end as well. So feel free to put any questions in the chat, or if you're brave enough, you can put yourself off mute and give us some feedback or any stories you want to share with us as well. While you're thinking about that, we'll just put in a little shout out for our webinar on Sunday morning as well. So if the rain continues like it is in Tokyo right now, and you need to do something on Sunday morning instead of going to the park, please join us from 10:30 to 12, where we'll have a bit more of a demo session and show you Gamerize and go into a little bit more of the content as well. So we'll put in a link for that as well in the chat if you're interested.
We did get one comment here. I don't know if it's not really a question, but from John, he said, I'm interested in the EBYL assessment as an alternative to ACAN Junior at my school now. He had to leave early, so but he'll come in on Sunday. So yeah, I don't know. Would you like to speak to a comparison of those two assessments, perhaps?
Yes, definitely. I guess one of the differences, again, it's a 4 skills test as well. So it will do assessment on listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It's interactive and game-like, which I think is a slightly different from ACAN. ACAN can be fun, but I don't know if your children will be excited about taking ACAN over and over again. So the experience is quite different. So there's that. It has more levels than ACAN Junior, which only has 3 levels. I think so if you need, again, more of that differentiation between levels, EBYL will do that for you as well. There is a nice certificate that you get at the end. So that's good in terms of motivating your children and getting parents excited as well. So I know a lot of PLSs put up those certificates on the wall to show the student has gotten gold or things like that. So you'll be able to do that with EBYL as well. And I do see another question about how often do you have students take the test? So you can do it at the beginning, kind of again as a diagnostic test, and then you can do it throughout the course of learning. We do recommend at minimum, like at least 3 months, because you want to see some sort of progress. So if you do it like week after week, you're not going to see that much progress happening. So around 3 months or 6 months, depending on how often you teach your classes, you can assign the EBYL test. I was going to say something else, but I've forgotten. One other thing about EBYL is that it uses the global scale of English, which is a scale from 10 to 90. So even though it's difficult to see progress in short periods of time and with young learners, since it's on a 10 to 90 scale, you will see kind of incremental progress, like moving from a 19 to a 22, a 22 to a 25. And that's something we've heard is really motivational for students as well.
Yeah, one other thing that I might mention there about the difference between ACAN Junior and EBYL is I think EBYL is more kind of designed to be an informal, like a formative assessment rather than a final kind of everyone has to pass this level of a summative test, right? So I think it provides more data and it's more useful as a diagnostic than perhaps more formal tests.
Yeah, we call it like soft certification. So we do give that certification, but we encourage them to take it again and as a continual process.
Yeah, there isn't a sense of failure or, there's not that high stakes pressure, right?
Any other questions or anyone want to share anything? If not, we're almost at time. So I think colleagues have put some things in the chat, but just to remind everyone, if you do want a free trial of English Benchmark Young Learners EBYL or Gamerize, please fill out the form and we'll get in touch with a free trial. Please join us on the 21st if you can. There's a link to the registration for the 21st webinar in the chat box as well. Final words, Adam, to everyone in the group?
Yeah, thank you again. Yeah, just thank you very much for coming and supporting us. And we're really excited to share about these things. So I hope some of that came across. There's loads of things that I felt like I didn't get a chance to say. But of course, if anyone has any interest in Gamerize Dictionary specifically and would like to see more of a walkthrough of that and specifically how it works, I'm happy to do that on a Zoom meeting anytime as well. So please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully we'll see some of you again on Sunday.
Right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.